Welcome to my channel, Wellspring, and also welcome to our first book club. I forgot to do an announcement ahead of this episode, if you want to call it. But the book that I had selected is called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Now, the reason why I chose this book is, I don't even know if this is a proper word, but manifold. I want to say twofold, but manifold was just the word that sprung to my mind. First of all, I want to just give a little background of how I got to select this book. So I was at my husband's office, and this book, my husband's office, and it's a family-run business, should I say, and my husband's uncle is an avid reader, and he had a bunch of these books in his reception area, and it was just lying around actually in the lunchroom. And I thought to myself, I really want to start reading again. I want to do a book club, and I don't know, I just thought, hey, it's staring you literally right in the face. So I just grabbed this book, and the condition that it's in is beat up properly, but something about me, having had a history of reading in my background, I love books that are usually beat up, because that usually means that they are a good read, or that whoever is the owner of those books is just a neglectful bookkeeper. But I'm happy to report that the case is the former. It's a really good book, and I also know that my husband's uncle is a very, he takes care of things really, really well. Okay, so long before I actually got to see the physical copy of this book, I listened to a pastor who is now moved on to glory, and his name is Miles Monroe. He was more than a pastor. He was so many things. He was an author, as a father, as a husband. He was a consultant and an advisor to many governments. He has an OBE, Order of the British Order, and he's Bahamian. He's from the Bahamas. Check out his YouTube videos, and if you have access to any of his books, I advise you to read them. And he talks about a lot of things, and I remember something about him. He was also a very avid reader, and he mentioned this book, Think and Grow Rich, and anything that man says is just gold. And I literally mean it. It's just gold. The gems he drops. So, I mean, it was just a coincidence. I don't want to say a coincidence. I want to say it was meant to be. Because whatever that guy kept on saying about the books, all the books that he's mentioned, I have in the back of my mind stored them just on my bookshelf of things to read. And I saw this book, and I'm like, yeah, I have to. Dr. Miles Monroe said it's a must read, so it is a must read. He's my Oprah. He's better than Oprah. Anywho, fun fact, Oprah has been influenced by this book, but whatever, we're not talking about Oprah today. So I'm going back and forth with how to go about this whole book club thing, and I decided that I'm going to deal with it chapter by chapter. And today we're going to be doing chapter 1, and I'm just going to kind of there is no play by play. I'm just swinging it. So the first chapter is titled Thoughts Are Things. and it has like a mini subtitles. It's a very simple and easy to read book, and note it's a very addicting. I have read like just a bunch of chapters here, and I can't put this book down. If I had more time, I probably would have finished reading this book like in a week or so, but I said I'm not going to pressure myself. So chapter by chapter it is. So thoughts are things, and that's the main title of chapter 1. And then there are subtitles as you go along. So the first subtitle is about the man who thought his way into partnership with Thomas A. Edison. So here they're talking about this guy called Edwin C Barnes, and he was a guy who was really, really interested in going into business with the famous inventor Thomas A. Edison. So the first I'll pick a line that I really liked, and it's the first line. Actually, it's the opening line, and it says, "Truly, thoughts are things, and powerful things at that, when they're mixed with definiteness of purpose, persistence, and a burning desire for their translation into riches or other material objects." Wow. So he talks about how this guy, Edwin C Barnes, and how this guy had a burning desire to work with the inventor, and he just really, really, really wanted to do that, but then he didn't have he faced challenges, right? And the first challenge he talked about was not knowing Edison personally, and the second thing is that he didn't even have enough money to pay to make that initial introduction to get to him, but he didn't let it get in his way. He knew what he wanted, and that thought just was all consuming, and he had no choice but to act on whatever was on his mind. So anyways, that's the first thing. So literally, okay, so as we go along the chapter, we find out that the two men ended up meeting, and they actually ended up going into business together, but it just didn't happen like that. He was first employed by Thomas Edison, and low-key, he didn't even divulge his idea, his dreams, his wishes, his desires. He was just like, listen, I want to get into that position. I want to be in the presence of this guy, and I'm just going to stay in that position and make sure in one way or another just end up being his business partner, not his employee. He thought big, and he was just like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes, however long it takes, to be in this position. So that goes into the other subtitle, which is called The Inventor and the Tramp. So in the subtitle, The Inventor and the Tramp, it just talks about how he was persistent in his pursuit of going into business with Thomas Edison. So something that I liked from this whole subtitle was a line that says, psychologists have correctly said that when one is truly ready for a thing, it puts in its appearance. Let me say that again. Psychologists have correctly said that when one is truly ready for a thing, it puts in its appearance. When one is truly ready for a thing, it puts in its appearance. So I'm just thinking about like my life and the things that I want, and I know there's this whole thing about manifesting, and honestly it makes me cringe. It makes me cringe so much just because it's a word that's like overused like for a lot of things, though it's true. It is true, but I really don't want to say manifesting. But the thing is, because the deception of manifesting in my mind is that, you know, people just say, oh yeah, manifest, and there's this whole like thing where it's like, oh yeah, if I don't have something, it's because I'm not thinking about it. It's like there's a bit of like some toxic positivity in it, I think, like on one side of the spectrum of the whole manifestation thing. What I love about the purity of this sentence or this statement is that when one is truly ready for a thing, that means that you have made up your mind about wanting something. You have researched about what you want, something so bad that you know almost everything about it, and it's like, all right, this is like you are certain in your mind, like you've done A, B, C, D, E, F, G, ready for it mentally, and you're just like, I don't know, I think it's like, I don't really know how to explain it. I'll give an example. I want to be like, let's say, okay, there was a time that I really, really wanted to fix my yard. There was a section of the yard that was just like super, it was just hard. The ground was hard. It was barren. There was no like lawn or grass or anything. And there were so many stones, and for the longest time I kept on bugging my husband. I was just like, listen, I want to do the yard because I really wanted to have picnics back there, and I wanted at the time my child to play back there and just have family time, like especially over the summer and the spring and stuff like that, just hang out in the backyard because I love nature, and you know, I low-key want to be like a green thumb like my mom and so many things, right? I had a vision for that patch of backyard, and you know, I didn't have grass. We didn't have money to do any landscaping or anything of that sort. So, man, I was determined, but I didn't know how it was going to work, right? But so I kept on watching. I kept on going to YouTube and watching videos on, like, you know, how to kind of like develop the backyard, and what kind of fertilizer to use, how to grade the land, what kind of soil you should like use for the backyard, and like for the different purposes that you want. If you want for like a lawn, if you want for a vegetable garden, and I just went into a rabbit hole of landscaping and yarding, if you want to call it that. So I literally, anything that was at my disposal for free, I looked into it. I went to the internet, browsing pages. You know, every time I'd go to Home Depot, I'd look at all these things, the different kinds of soil, and in my head I just used to be like, you know, one day when I have the money, I'm gonna rub my 2 coins together and like buy these things. Anyways, and then there's like a bunch of construction that's going on in my area, real estate development, and I just used to ask my husband, yo, can we like drive by and like grab some of that soil that's not being used, that's been dug up, and just find something and just bring it. over to our place, like, like borrow a truck from so and so and grab some of that soil like at 9 and then come and dump it into our yard. I was ready for it. It just kept on sitting in my mind, but I knew exactly what I wanted, and I knew that, listen, this is what I need to do. I had done all the research beforehand, so it was just a matter of opportunity and a matter of resources, and I knew that when the resources were available that I would do this. But anyways, we will continue with this landscaping story. It's not yet over. The next chapter is, the next mini subtitle is Slight Disguises of Opportunity. I loved this. I loved this subtitle, and I'm going to pick something that 2 lines of this in this segment, and it says, one of the tricks of opportunity is that it has a sly habit of slipping in by the back door, and often it comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. Perhaps that is why so many fail to recognize opportunity. So in this chapter, like, he's talking about how Edison had now just completed a new device and perfected it, and he tried to get the people who are part of his team to sell it, but then a lot of them were skeptical and were like, no, it's not going to work. But then our dear Edwin C Barnes just like, what, this is my time to shine, this is the moment that I've been waiting for. And this guy was like, what, this is my chance to shine. So he was just like, what, I believe in this product, I believe in your invention, I believe in the inventor, so I'm gonna make this work. So I don't know how he did it. They didn't go into details, but then they said that this guy, like, he sold it so successfully, and everybody knew, like, about the invention, and then he was given a contract to distribute and market it all over the nation. So he made himself rich. And I want to make a note of something that I low-key peeped. And it said that, like, they don't really say it, but I feel like that's the reality of the situation, is that his success didn't come overnight. He had to really hang in there, even when it didn't happen overnight. He decided, he could see it happening. He had vision, and vision sometimes, vision is a long-term game. It's not a short-term game. And the thing about vision is that you can quit so early because you don't reap the rewards instantly. And a lot of us have this habit of falling into the instant gratification situations. And that's the thing. When you want to be rich, apparently you have to really, really ride the waves of whatever comes your way. And in this situation, it came in the way of naysayers, right? Sometimes you don't, if you listen to the noise that's around you, you can miss that opportunity because you don't have vision. And like, you could see, like, the other salespeople, the other people in his team couldn't see that vision, but then the one person who could see that vision and was ready for it was just like, listen, this is gonna work. And I don't really think it was about being, it was, I don't think for Edwin C Barnes it was about the pursuit of money. I think it was just also aligning himself with someone who was great, who had a great mind, who had a vision, who was a genius. So a lot of us, including myself, really want to be rich for whatever reason, right? But then I think deep down, even wanting to be rich, because you just don't want to be rich and rich for a short time. You don't want that new money, you want that long money, because the thing about new money, I think, is that you get so hype, but then the thing is, like, you can lose it quickly because you haven't been used to spending or having that kind of money. And you blow through it, and sometimes you think that, hey, yeah, I can just make more if I stick to doing the same thing. And sometimes that's true. But I think what we want more than money is we want to have the ability to keep on regenerating it. And to have that ability to keep regenerating it, I think we have to have a vision, and we have to tap into our inner genius. And inner genius doesn't have to necessarily mean that we are inventors or the conventional mainstream type of genius that we know, but you can be a genius in organization. You can be a genius in business management, money management, even family management, like in your home. You can be a genius in like art, in music, but that's like mainstream. But like, I just really mean identifying what you're really good at, and scamming does not apply. To the scammers. Your time is short, and that's the thing, right? Anyways, I don't know where that thought came from, but then I digress. Another line that I liked is that how much actual cash that original desire of Barnes was worth to him, I have no way of knowing. Perhaps it brought him $2 or $3 million, but the amount, whatever it is, becomes insignificant when it is compared with the great asset he acquired in the form of definite knowledge that an intangible impulse of thought can be transmuted into material rewards by the application of known principles. Let that sink in. Let that sink in, and you make of it whatever you want to make of it. And what I also love about this book is that it kind of makes you think for yourself. It has this thing of like, okay, yes, I'm gonna tell you these principles, but like they're sprinkled all over the book. There's some secrets that you can pick up, and for those who are like keen, they will be able to pick them up, and they will think on it, and if they're ready for it, it's like, if they're ready for it, that's going to be the beginning of their lives getting changed, and them recognizing all these opportunities and things that they can do to grow rich. And I like that the title is Think and Grow Rich. So it's not only just like, as you're reading this book, you should think. It's like a little dance, I think, a seductive dance of the mind. Think and Grow Rich, and I just love it. The next subtitle is 3 Feet from Gold. So a line that I loved is, one of the most common causes of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by temporary defeat. Every person is guilty of making this mistake at one time or the other. So he goes in and talks about the story about how this family business of 2 guys, an uncle and a nephew. I'm sure it was probably more, but mostly it was the 2 of them. They decided, like, we're going to get some gold. And I think it was the era of, the gold fever and everything. So they did everything that they wanted. They needed to get they found like an area that indicated that yes, there was a gold deposit nearby. So they were really happy and excited about it all. And then they kept on digging and digging and digging and digging and digging and digging. And but then they didn't find the amount of gold that they thought they would hit and find. So they just packed up their stuff. And the thing is, like, they invested heavily in it. And I think the more that they would spend on this whole endeavor would sink them deeper and deeper into debt. So they just decided, hey, let's pack everything up and let's wrap it up and go. So they decided, like, you know what, they were just going to sell whatever machinery that they had, invested in this whole gold mining thing, and then they sold it to a dude. So the guy that they sold it to was just like, one of these guys who's like 1-800 junk. Yeah. So they sold it, and then this guy was just like, let me go and get like a geologist or some type of guy, a mining engineer. So they got this mining engineer. He paid him, and then the guy did his thing, and then he was just like, you know what, yeah, there's actually gold here, you just need to dig a little deeper. And the thing is, like, they were 3 feet away from the vein that would tap into the gold. Oh my gosh. So this guy, the 1-800 junk man, ended up like going further, and he got his gold. And the moral of the story here is that you just have to keep on going. You have to keep on going. And if you're stuck in an area, seek expert counsel before giving up. So the junk man profited from all their hard work. And what I loved also about this thing is what they said: seek expert counsel before giving up. So sometimes you can go into business and the business is just not working, it's failing, and if you sink in more money, it will just be stupid, right? Because you don't even know how you're sinking in this money. It's like you're just hemorrhaging cash, and that's foolish, right? But then if you have expert counsel, your counsel sometimes can tell you, like, listen, this is your situation and there's something still here, but this is how you have to go on about it. Because sometimes your eyes they don't have any expertise in that area. And even if you have expertise in that area, sometimes you need like co-counsel, like a second opinion about how to go on about these things, right? And sometimes it could be fruitless, and sometimes the thing is that it's a good idea, but you just need to restructure, or you just need to hang in there because of this and this issue that needs to be addressed. But that's before giving up. So I love that. The next subtitle is called I Will Never Stop Because Men Say No. So after these guys, they hung up their coats or whatever, their mining hats, and then they heard news about 1-800 junk man, and they felt really, really bad because like somebody got instantly rich, right, off of their hard work. But then even worse was that you gave up too soon. Not too soon, okay, not literally too soon, but they gave up when they were just right there. And that's the thing. They said opportunity sometimes, in the previous chapter, they're talking about how sometimes opportunity disguises itself as misfortune, right? So it was a misfortune. It was a unfortunate circumstance for them. But then for the 1-800 junk man, it wasn't. Anyway, so the lesson that this guy learned So he decided he was going to go into business, not the nephew, and then into a new business, and then he started the whole insurance, life insurance business. And then he just decided, like, this kind of business, if anyone of you has ever gotten like a telemarketing call or ever heard of like insurance, has been in that position where they have to discuss insurance, or they've gotten a call from someone from insurance, these guys don't give up. They don't quit. They will sell it to you in 1,000 ways, no matter how many times you say no, and unless like you're completely like adamant and you're like, listen, I said what I said, no. And even then they will be like, happy to do business with you whenever you're ready, just give us a call. So he developed this mantra of just not quitting, especially if somebody says like no, when it's not like a legit reason to say no. And I know like a lot of us are thinking like, yes, it's my money, it's a legit reason to say no, but you're not the one who's selling the insurance, so keep that in mind. So anyways, he ended up learning from his loss and transferring that lesson into his new business, never taking no for an answer. So he ended up growing his business so much to a point where like he started like raking in over millions of dollars in life insurance like per year. And the thing is, like, you need to think about this. This is like early insurance days. This is not like current insurance days. Like right now, that market, I know it's crazy. I haven't seen what the stats are, but he learned his L's. He learned from his L's. So what else have you learned from your previous life experiences? Things that you quit too early in. What lesson did you learn from that, and how can you apply it into your life now? And that's the thing, right? People say the greatest lessons that you learn are from your losses and not from your wins. Not meaning you can't learn from your wins, but you learn the greatest lessons, the greatest values from your losses. So if you're sitting somewhere and feeling sorry for yourself, like I'm sure this guy did, get up, dust yourself off, and keep on moving and learn from the mistakes that you made. Because the thing is, like, if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're bound to keep repeating them. Next subtitle, a 50-cent lesson in persistence. So in this chapter, it talks about how his uncle, and how this uncle, I think this particular uncle was completely bitter and sour. And I think the era of this book, okay, so this book was published in the 70s. I think this is the first edition. I don't know which edition this book is. Nope. It was first published in the 60s. So everything, all the experiences, everything that we're reading about the people that are mentioned in these books are probably in an earlier era. So, the state that North America was in at that time. Yeah, not exactly people of color friendly. So anyways, he talks about this child of African heritage that was now in America, who was so this uncle, it's like he had a farm settlement where there were a bunch of like people of color who also I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a big farm, and then you have other farmers who are also living and cultivating that farmland. And I think they were leasing that farmland as well. So that's how like they were living. And so now this uncle, he was very like bitter and surly. He was not exactly people friendly. And this kid comes into his barn when he's doing some work there, and the kid is just like, and it's a girl. The girl is just like, listen, hey, my mom said she needs like 50 cents. And the guy was just like, yeah, whatever, I'm not gonna do it, just go back home. And then she's like, yeah, okay. But then she stayed right there and she didn't move. And this guy was like, hey, I told you I'm not gonna do it. What are you doing here? You better go back home, otherwise I'm gonna like beat you up. And she's like, yes sir. But she stayed there and she didn't move at all. And she stayed there like the entire time. And the dude was getting pissed. So he was like, walking up to her real aggressive and looked like he was going to hit her. But she was like, listen, my mommy said that I need that 50 cents now. Okay, that's just me paraphrasing, but you get the gist. And so he was just like, listen, just take the 50 cents and go home. So she got the 50 cents and she went home. And then after he gave her that 50 cents, he just sat down and it's like he zoned out to another dimension. And his nephew was just looking at him like, what just happened? I have to pause now because you didn't call.